In this tutorial, I want to show you how to take a photo of a subject shot on a studio background like this, and using Refine Edge, replace it with a textured background and give you a photo that looks like this. Okay, what we've got here is my dog, Emma, and she's cute. This is like the fraction of a second that she actually holds still for a photo. And this is shot on simple gray background. If you're curious, it is Savage Paper Fashion Gray, I believe is the color that they called it. And I just did a very simple one light shot with her. And the purpose was, I knew that I didn't have quite the background that I wanted in the house, but it was very easy to shoot her on this, knowing I could use Refine Edge to cut her out and then later put on a background that I wanted. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go over and pick my magnetic, excuse me, not the magnetic. I'm going to pick my quick selection tool. And I'm just going to make a rough selection with her using this. And we just kind of want to drag this around so it selects most of her. And you can see there's some fine hairs that are kind of coming out of the edge, but I've got my marching ants over here. That's exactly what Refine Edge is for. So I'm going to go up and click Select and Mask. And I've got my rough cut out. There are really only a couple of things I do. And one is I check this box for Smart Radius. And I check Decontaminate Colors for my output. And I'm going to output to a new layer with Layer Mask. The thing about Refine Edge is it works fine if you have contrast on a very simple background. I've tried it on a few other things, and I end up getting a bit of a mess. In other words, you get kind of a haze between the selection of what you want and what you don't want. And it's good for studio shots like these. So I'm going to take my brush. Over here, we can see that we're still going to select Refine Edge brush. And it's just this first one, kind of, actually second one right here. And little by little, I'm going to make my brush a little bit larger. And I'm just touching the outside edges. I don't want to put the brush over Emma at all. And very slowly, I just kind of go ahead and pull that down. I give it a little while to compute. And then I do the same thing pretty much all the way around her. I don't have to go very, very slowly. It just kind of makes me feel comfortable. Sometimes, when I get into a spot like this, I'm going to come in a little bit closer. And we'll do the same thing here. And this is just all we're doing all the way around. I'm not really so much selecting Emma as I am selecting the gray space where the hair kind of overlaps with it. If I start selecting Emma, then I run the risk of getting some decontamination. I run the risk of actually screwing her up and kind of letting the gray background slide through her. So to me, it's kind of a slow and tedious process. And it's just simple, though. Once you've got a clean background with some contrast, that's really what's making this work, is the fact that I've got contrast between her golden hair, since she is a golden retriever. And of the 3 retrievers that I own, she's the only one who actually brings things back to me. Not that you need to know that in order to be able to cut something out. But these little fun facts of life are kind of what make them worth living. So again, little by little, just slowly grabbing what I want. I'm doing it slowly simply so I don't honestly jerk my pen and screw it up. I don't have the calmest hands in here. But you can see, look at these fine hairs that it's masking out. It's doing a wonderful job because it doesn't have to compete with what is gray background versus what is Emma's fur. And I don't really know if it makes that much of a difference if I did the whole thing and then let it recalculate or not. But I find it easier for me to kind of go ahead and just pick sections, make sure I've got it right, and then move on. Because if I don't do that and I mess something up, then I've got to go back and kind of start all over, which is annoying to me. And it doesn't really take too long to do that when you've got a subject that's not filled with holes or things that you need to go back in and kind of tighten up, because she's pretty much a solid subject here. No gaps, no worries at all. And that takes us all the way down. All right, so let me back out. And there we go. You can see my selection. And I'm going to go ahead and export her. Before I do, we'll take a look at the view. I've kind of done this on the onion skin. You can also look at it on overlay. And if you saw maybe some red coming through her, on her fur or her body where it shouldn't have been, you can go back and you can select the other brush down here and just work it like a mask. So in other words, you can see this is what our mask looks like. You can see it even got that one little whisker that's coming down on her side over here. And like I said, overall, I'm pleased with that. So I'm going to go ahead and export that to a new layer with mask. So there she is. She's cut out. Now, that's where it had. That's what we've got. And let me change to the V key so I can move her around. So I can kind of pick her up, kind of put her where I want to. Which is, again, one of the nice things of having a snapshot of a dog is they actually obey you. All right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to find a texture. I'm just going to click open. And I've got a series of textures in my Dropbox. Go over, let's see, resources. Textures, and there are a couple places where I get my textures, other than the ones that I take for myself, but one is called flypapertexture.com, and the other one is frenchkisscollections.com. So you can see I've got a number of them from French Kiss. So let me go over here to this one because I happen to know that's where I've got this texture, and that's the one I want. So I'm going to open that up. And I'm going to hit Command A to select everything and copy. I'm going to go back over to this tab where we have Emma. I'm going to hit Command V to paste. I'm going to hit Command T for Alt Transform. And I can just kind of bring this down and stretch it out. And now let's just bring this back down. Up, sorry. Always forget that little checkbox. Let's bring this down and put Emma on top of it. So very quickly, we've got Emma here. We can kind of move around. Oop, might help if I select the right layer too. Don't you hate it when you're doing a demonstration and you just mess everything up? So let's go back over here now. I've got Emma. She's on the background. I pick her up and move her around. Not too much because you can see where I cut her off at the bottom. And if I need to make her a little bit bigger, I can go Command T. And then I just hit the Command 0 so I can sew everything. So that's the whole bounding box of what I've got here. I guess I could crop her down so I didn't have to worry about it too much. But then hold on the Shift key to keep the shape right. So I can make her bigger or smaller. If I want to put her a little bit bigger in the frame, I guess just stretch that out and do something like that. But let me undo that because I don't want to make her bigger. I usually end up making these as a bit of a 16 by 9 crop. So I want to give her some headroom over here, so I've got room to crop that off. And then it's just a matter of, I think I want to place her just right about here. And this time I remember the check mark. Okay, so that gives us a start, but it's not everything we want to do. There's a couple other things we kind of want to make sure that she actually fits in there. One, I want to come down here to the texture layer, and it's a bit too sharp for my taste. So what I want to do is I want to come up to Filter, Blur, and I'll go down to Lens Blur. And I want to make it look like that was shot with her, in the frame, but have a little bit of a sense of a depth of field. And you can see we've got a number of choices over here for your lens. I kind of prefer going with the octagon. And my radius, typically, I'm looking for kind of a nice defocused look, but I don't want to lose the texture. I don't want to get it so blurry that there's no point in having a texture there at all. Let me take my preview and check. So there's the texture we have. And then there's just after a little bit of blur. I might go ahead and bring this up just a little bit. And maybe a couple on the specular highlights. And so now it's definitely looking a bit blurrier, but it's looking more like a lens blur than something like a Gaussian blur. So there's the full thing. There's the preview with the blur. And I'm just going to hit OK. All right, next thing we need to do is we need to make Emma look like she has a little bit of a shadow. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and click this little mask over here. And you can see I've got two issues. One is that I brought this part over here, so I don't really need to worry about that. But what I want to do is I want to fill this one with black. So I've got black selected. I'm going to come get the paintbrush and just add myself a new layer, fill with black. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect the marching ants, and I'm going to go ahead and go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I just want a really big kind of blur like this one. So I want the edges to be a little bit soft. I've got it about 165. And I might want to take that up just a bit more, roughly about 200. And then I'm going to come over and lower the opacity down, probably about 11%. I'm going to pull that behind her. So there's a couple of things I need to do. I'm going to add a mask on here. That's my quick and easy way of dealing with the blur, or excuse me, the shadow that I created on this side. Make my brush just a little bit larger and get rid of that section. And now if I take a look at it with what does my shadow look like, you can see it's right behind her. I kind of want to move this over a little bit. So I hit my V key. And let's take a look again. And you can see that shadow is kind of present behind it. You almost don't perceive it, but if it's not there, you can tell she's kind of pasted on. So you put it there, and I might even pull it down a little bit just because of the angle of the light. You can see the softbox highlight over here that came in. And that is it. That is my quick and easy way of doing a cutout with refined edge. That's something I shot, in a studio on a fashion gray background and then put it on a texture. The same thing will work. It doesn't have to be a texture. You could put any photo that looks good for a background. There is one other step that you probably want to take, and that is to kind of match the colors. I think she already matches this color very well, but typically what I'll do is I'll come up and select something like a color lookup table. And let's go with this crisp warm look, since we kind of have warm colors in here anyways. It's a little over the top when it comes out, but once again, we'll pick this, we'll go to our opacity, I'll pull it all the way down and then just kind of move it up a little bit. And now I've got the kind of the same color on both the subject and the background. And that's it. I can't give you the background for this since I bought it from French Kiss and it belongs to them. So I will recommend them as a source to go look at, as well as Flypaper texture. However, I will be able to give you the raw file and the full res JPEG of Emma in case you need a subject to go ahead and try practice refine edge on your own. Thank you very much. If you like this, please go ahead and click like on the video, and we would love it if you'd subscribe. Thank you so much.